Welcome back to Gotham Knights. In this video I want to basically expand on my initial opinion about the game. And remember, it's an opinion, it's not a full-on review. I haven't completed the game, so it's more along the lines of first impressions. And we're going to jump into why I think that after, I think it's around another hour and a half of gameplay, that Gotham Knights absolutely sucks. And just quickly before we do jump into this one, if you want to pick up cheap games, if you're interested in Gotham Knights, there is a link in the description that will take you to CD Keys, and you will be able to pick up the game at a discount. Not only that, but it will also directly support the channel. And if you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like on it. All the support on the channel is greatly appreciated. There are other links down there, merch, Patreon, buy me a coffee, all that good stuff. And remember, it's all optional. It's entirely up to you. The support is appreciated. And let's get into exactly why I think this game is not worth your money in any way, shape or form. So, I jumped back on, having done a couple of main missions. And this time round, I wanted to play some of the open world. I wanted to do some exploration, do some side activities and stuff, because I had heard that there is a lot of repetitive gameplay in the open world. And not only did it basically clarify, like it helped me understand that is exactly how this game plays. It is repetitive. There is nothing to the open world whatsoever. I jumped in, I had some premeditated crimes that I was allowed to take on. So I jumped into those. There were, I think, 7 or 8 available on my first night. And basically, the way this open world works is, whilst you're not doing a main mission, you can explore the open world, do whatever you want. But in terms of activities and things to do in the open world, if you have these premeditated crimes, you take them down, you have to pretty much interrogate some of the enemies. Like, you don't have to. There is other ways to get clues. Taking down bigger enemies, they'll drop you some clues. But interrogating enemies is going to help you basically get more clues together. Then after the premeditated ones, there are, I think they're called opportunistic. It's a much easier variation of the crimes. And they're basically all the fucking same. Pretty much nothing changes. Overall, if you go to the legend on the map, you will see there are 10 different crimes, but you have things like, I think it's like a witness attack that you have to defend them, and then there's one for officers. So that's 2 different crimes, but they're not different, if that makes any sense. They're exactly the same. The only thing that changes is you're protecting a witness or you're protecting an officer. Everything else is the same. Me and Lewis were sat there talking about it, and I think it ended up being, there's actually only, realistically, 7 different activity types for these premeditated crimes. But not only that, as you're playing through different nights, you will eventually, at some point, come across the exact same crime in the exact same location with the exact same enemies basically committing the crime. But you take down the premeditated, you take down the opportunistic, or whatever they're called, and that is going to give you clues. Once you are done with the premeditated, there is nothing left for you to do besides go back to the Belfry. You're free to explore, but there's nothing there. The open world is empty. You go back to the Belfry, and all you do is basically earn a bit of XP, get some crafting materials, you go back out, and you do the same thing again. But if you want activities to do, if you want these crimes to participate in, then you need to be taking out crimes in the first place to gather clues, because the more clues you find, the more premeditated crimes the next time round. So it's a really, really shit, boring system. There's nothing but just repeating itself over and over again. But then it gets frustrating and annoying at the same time. And there are some things in this game that make absolutely no sense to me. So I completed night number 2. I completed a full night, did all of the premeditated crimes, and bearing in mind, the first night took me about 35-40 minutes, and I was sat there talking in a party, and like, because I'm playing on Xbox, and then the third night took me about 30, maybe 35 minutes, and there was like 7 or 8 crimes I had to do. But I was also roaming around a little bit. I was also doing the opportunistic crimes, and it took a total of 35 minutes. So basically, you go to the Belfry, you do what you've got to do there, you jump into the open world for a 30 to 40 minute session, then you're back to the Belfry, and it's rinse and repeat. But I did a full patrol, I unlocked new gear pieces, and then I found out that you can't actually equip new gear until you return to the Belfry. But if you return to the Belfry at any point, it gets rid of the crimes that are available. It ends your current patrol. So basically, you've got 7 crimes available for a night. Night number 2, we'll say you're on. You've got 7 crimes available. You complete 2. You get some really good gear that you want to go and equip, but you have 5 crimes left. What you have to do is finish those crimes and do all of them before returning to the Belfry, because if you go back, those crimes are no longer available. But not only that, because you can't change, you are stuck doing an entire night with the same gear. You're playing an open world session with the same gear. And I found, I don't know if this changes further into the game, I'm about 2.5, 3 hours in. I don't know if it changes, but you don't actually ever find a piece of fucking gear. All I've found so far is materials that I can then craft into gear, and I don't even know how these blueprints are unlocking properly. Like, they haven't made it clear. When you play an RPG game or a looter shooter, you're aware of your loot drops, you're aware of the gear, and sometimes the loot chests in the game don't even show up when you press down on your D-pad to pop up the AR view to see different objects and things like that. Sometimes the chests don't even show up on that. So I think that's a really, really bad system. Not only because you're stuck doing an entire night patrol with the same gear, but I was level 2, I found some level 3 gear, I actually hit level 3 that night, went back to the Belfry, got XP for that night, and that made me reach level 4. I hit level 4 doing that night. So instantly, the best gear I got from that night became obsolete. There was no point because I had hit level 4 and all my gear that I found was level 3. So it was pointless. There was absolutely 0 point in me getting them blueprints and crafting that gear. You can't equip it until you're back in the Belfry, but you're rewarded XP in the Belfry, which could level you up and make your gear obsolete. It's a shitty system. But not only that, I had a look at the different elements of actually crafting gear. You get your blueprints. For Red Hood, there are 3 categories. You've got your suit, your melee, your range. If you go and have a look, and it doesn't make sense in my head, a lot of people are just going to say, oh, it's nitpicking, it's a minor thing in the game, it does make sense. There's going to be lots of different opinions about it, but if you have a look at the suit blueprints, when you craft something, depending on what it is, it will change your suit. But with Red Hood, when you go into ranged, bearing in mind, a melee weapon is a sword, an axe, or something like that. Ranged is a gun, or a bow, an arrow, a crossbow, something like that. Something where you can stand back and pick off enemies at a distance relatively easy. Some sort of a handheld weapon like a pistol. But when you go into the ranged weapons to craft them for Red Hood, you are crafting ammo. You've got these different rounds you can put in your gun for your ranged. That seems absolutely fine. But then you go into the melee crafting, and you're not changing your fists or anything like that. You are actually changing your gun. You are crafting pistols for your melee damage, your melee weapon. You are changing the pistols that you have equipped. So suits do suits, ranged actually does ammo, and melee does ranged weapons. There isn't an actual melee upgrade in the game. Nothing melee-based changes, at least on Red Hood. And there's just a lot of other dodgy things I've heard about the game, because they made it so that you can play as whichever character you want whenever you want. Someone said they played a mission and they was playing as Robin, they got absolutely battered, but then they switched over to Red Hood, I think it was, and in the following cutscene, Red Hood was being patched up. So it's like they've basically created one story, but they've let you choose whichever character you want. So you can get absolutely smashed to pieces as Robin, do literally the next mission with Red Hood, and you'll see Red Hood being patched up. It's like there's nothing in this game that fits. And you need to remember, this is all based on my opinion. There's going to be a lot of you that probably enjoy this game. It's an open world game. There's RPG systems. There's a story. There's Batman lore. All that sort of stuff. The game's actually based on comics from the same series. Fans of the DC universe, the Batman, Gotham City, all that sort of stuff, you guys might enjoy this game. But in my opinion, it fucking sucks because it's just repetitive, boring nonsense. The gear system is the most basic thing you'll see in a gear-based RPG game. the side missions run out over time, so you have to go back to essentially your base of operations. You need to go back, reset it, find clues, all that sort of stuff. You run through the street and the police just aggro you, and you're supposed to be saving them, but if you get crowded by them or something like that, then you're going to have to knock them all out. It's got a lot of dodgy systems in the game, and I really think for casual players, people not necessarily invested in the DC world or Batman or anything like that, I really can't see a lot of people having a good time. I've seen comments, and I will heart them. I'm not against the game entirely. I just personally don't enjoy it. Like, people leave comments saying, oh, I'm loving the game. That's fantastic. I'm glad you're enjoying the game. But in my opinion, I do not think this game's worth the money. I spent £80 on the deluxe edition, and I feel like it's a massive waste. I think players would benefit the most from this game being £15 to about $20. I don't think the game's worth anything more than that, and I stick to that at the moment. That could change over time. I could get really invested in the story. The gameplay could become better the more I play. I've just done the knighthood challenges, so I've unlocked the ability to use these spirit platforms to jump around as Red Hood, and that was okay for traversal. The novelty wore off after about 32 seconds or something stupid. Is not, like, it doesn't make much of a difference at all. The bat cycle is boring already. You just accelerate and then it just feels like you're cruising along. There's not really any power behind it. You can't bump into traffic properly. You can't come flying off the bat cycle if you hit something. You can't really run people over. They've limited almost everything in this game. And I've heard a lot of people saying that it was originally supposed to be a live service, and they might have seen backlash from Avengers, so they changed the direction of the game. And people have said the early trailers look completely different to how the game released. So I just think this game's one big massive mess. It's repetitive, lackluster, boring, all that sort of stuff. I don't enjoy it too much. I will continue to play. I'm not just going to drop the game. I do want to see if there is anything on offer playing through the game. So we're going to have to wait and see until I've sunk more hours in. But check out this video if you want to see my previous one for Gotham Knights on the channel. That's going to do it for this one. I'll see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.